Hey everybody. So today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis, and it's basically the process by which plants make their own food. But before we begin, I'd like you to kind of think for a second about when we say that plants make their own food, like what is that food? Like we've talked about that in the past. Plants make their own food, animals don't. So what is that food? Pause the video for a second if you need to, and really think about what you think that food actually is, and we'll reveal that answer in a moment. So today's goals are for you to learn how specifically the plants make their own food. It's called photosynthesis. I'm also going to ask you to draw and label a diagram on how the plants make that food. So for today's lesson, you will need a paper and a pencil if you are listening to this through YouTube. If you do not have those things, please pause the video now and take them out. You will also need to have, well, not what you need. There's also going to be learning about a list of things that the plants need to make food. So that's the other thing that we're going to learn today. So let's review real quick, okay? I know there's been a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about for a little while, but here's a basic rundown of what we learned prior to today's lesson. Bark protects trees from bugs and animals getting into it. Seeds are like baby plants, usually with hard outer shells that can be spread by water, wind, or animals. Roots keep the plant upright, keep it from falling over. It draws water from the soil. Leaves are like little solar panels that collect the sunlight. A stem is where most plants store their food, and branches cast a wide net to catch as much sunlight as possible. Even though today is a pear deck, if you are watching this, obviously it's not going to be interactive for you. So instead, there's several moments that I'm just going to ask you to pause the video and draw something out, and an adult that's in the room will ask to see those pictures. And I will certainly ask to see those pictures when I see you tomorrow. Hey, is it true or false? Do you think that plants can feel pain when they're picked? Is that true or false? Pause the video if you need to think about that for a moment, because I'm going to say the answer just right now. It is not true. Plants do not have nerves. We have nerves. Remember, we talked about the nervous system? That's how we can feel pain. That's how animals and humans, that's how we feel pain. Well, plants don't have nerves, so they do not have the ability to feel pain like we do. So we know that plants make their own food. As much as I would like it to be a plate of spaghetti, it simply is not. So here's what they make. They make something called glucose. It's kind of like a type of sugar. If you break it down to the molecules of what make it, glucose is basically sugar. I'm not saying that it tastes like table sugar, like what we think of sugar being. Like if you were to bite into a dandelion, be like, boy, that tastes like sugar. No, it would not, okay? It doesn't really work like that. So the kind of sugar that we're familiar with is just basically molecularly the same thing, but it's not exactly the same. Speaking of which, I'd like you to pause the video in a moment. And I want you to draw two different pictures of foods. Okay, this is connected to our own life. One picture of food on the left is one that has a lot of sugar in it. Okay, and one on the right that has a food that people could eat, not drink, food that has little or no sugar. Okay, pause the video and draw two quick sketches now. Okay. Moving on. What do plants need to survive? Well, they need three basic things in order to make their own food. They need sunlight, they need water, and they need carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what we exhale, what we breathe out of our mouths. Okay, that's what carbon dioxide is. They need those three things in order to make their own food. Okay, do you agree or disagree? Too much carbon dioxide in the air can be a bad thing. Pause the video now if you need to think about that. It is very true. We need a certain mixture in the air, right? Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. We don't need too much of carbon dioxide in the air. It's not a good thing, okay? So that's why we say thank you, plants, because plants take carbon dioxide in and they put oxygen out. Now, when I say breathe in, plants don't have lungs like you and I do. They don't breathe in the traditional sense. So when I say that they breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen, which is what we need, it's not literally like that. It doesn't really work like that. So how do they capture the sunlight, right? So the first thing that we were talking about was the carbon dioxide. So we just talked about that. Now let's talk about how they capture sunlight. Well, leaves have a special chemical in them, okay, called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is green. That's why many plants, not all, but many, appear green. In fact, this picture at the bottom of the screen here, this is what the cells of chlorophyll actually look like under a microscope. And you can see they're very green. That chemical is what helps the plants to capture the sunlight. Let's break it down even further. Okay, let's simplify it because I'm telling you right now, folks, photosynthesis is a complicated process. So let's really try to break it down as best we can, okay? Carbon dioxide from the air, it enters in tiny little holes in the leaves, okay? Water, of course, we know is absorbed from the roots, passes through the stem, we know that already, and sunlight is absorbed through the chemical in the leaves, okay? Let's break it down even further, okay? Step one, the plant gathers sunlight via the chlorophyll. Step two, the light energy reacts with and forms special chemicals in the leaf. Step three, the special chemicals join with carbon dioxide and they create sugar. Trust me when I say it's a lot more complicated than this. It's as simple as I can possibly make it. And step four, the sugar, glucose is what it's called, is stored in the stem. All right, it's drawing time. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and draw this picture to the left and label it as best that you possibly can. Keep an eye on the time because I don't want you to spend forever on this because you still have classwork to do. You still have a Google form and a daily discussion. So keep your eye on the time when it comes to doing this stuff, okay? And use your best judgment. So I'm assuming that you've already done that picture at this point. You paused the video, and now we're moving. This is right towards the end. So it's important to know that some plants need more or less of something to survive. So some plants need more sun, some need less. Some, like the ivy, for example, this on the left, they need very little sunlight, and they still do just fine. Cacti on the right, very little water. Every plant is different in their needs. Okay? I want you to pick up your pencil and on the sheet of paper that you have been drawing on, write the three things that plants need to make food. Rewind the video if you need to. Go back to that part of the video so you can see what they need. Okay? So at this point, after you do that, I want you to exit this video. There is an additional YouTube video, a Dr. Binox video that you can watch. Okay, do that. And then make sure you keep an eye on the time so that you can make sure you have enough time to do your daily discussion and your Google form. And then you can have some appropriate free time on the video. Okay, so finish this paper, then watch the Dr. Binox, then do your classwork and keep an eye on the time. Great job, everybody.